Hello everyone, ladies, gentlemen, and otaku alike. This is Recall Review, and here we're doing something different. This is episode 2 of the art show. I'm here joined by
KrazyStarGazer. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Chances are, depending on the order in which this is edited and put out, you may see this before or after the first episode of us talking about Star Wars Visions.
Yep.
In which case, I talked about Frank Miller a bit in that episode, and you may have thought we were going to do Frank Miller this one.
But you were wrong.
But he said we need time to prepare for Crazy Uncle Frank.
Yeah, it's going to take a second.
So, we're here doing Sam Keith, one of my personal favorite artists and comic personalities in the business, honestly.
Yeah.
Sam Keith, I personally like his weird and okay, here's the best way to describe Sam Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, it's like, wow, that's a really weird way to draw those characters. But
that really was a way.
You know, if you see it, you know it's Sam Keith. You don't need to see the signature. You don't need to look. If you see, like no one else's art, especially in comics, looks like Sam Keith. So let us, and this here is the man himself, Sam Keith, doing what I'm assuming is a signing at this store. So let us move on to the first image. A cover of a Juggernaut comic. Here we go. What's your take on Wolverine and Juggernaut here?
I gotta say, there's a lot of curves here. And very circular.
He definitely draws with a lot of action lines, and action lines are very important as far as animation goes, because things move easier in a curve than it's the reason why Batman the Animated Series looks so great, and the Hanna-Barbera more anatomically correct superhero shows look a little so-so today and are stiltily animated. But there's a lot. There's a lot going as little as going in this. So let's just look here at the faces here. And again,
yeah.
So you kind of see what I mean by that's a weird way to draw those characters.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to make Juggernaut kind of he's kind of tilting his head a little bit, while Wolverine's just straight on, is just dead on looking at him. And all I'm thinking is, why is Juggernaut just kind of doing that slight head tilt?
I'm wondering why Juggernaut's not wearing his helmet right.
That's true too.
Because Morgan just shook those claws right up in that open. This is supposed to be sealed around the top of his suit. Like he's supposed to be sealed in this suit.
Oh, oops. One thing. Scroll down slightly to Wolverine's legs. So how was Wolverine balancing? So it kind of looks like he's about to just kind of fall off, and just isn't, through sheer force of will. It's I feel like what he's actually concerned about is, I'm not falling.
Speaking of Wolverine, we thought that Rob Liefeld drew some ridiculously large muscles. Look at Wolverine's fucking arm. Okay? Look, your bicep plus tricep should not be larger than your shoulder. And the way he's just hunched and scrunched up over here, that can't be comfortable.
No, it can't be.
Fucking Juggernaut, looks appropriately large and lumbering. His obscene size has always fit the character. That's kind of like what the character was intended to be. He's magically altered to be this crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of these Sam Keith tropes, big feet. large feet.
Oh, here's my question for you. Are you a fan of big, long Wolverine claws or shorter Wolverine claws?
I like a good medium. Like, the length of the claws in the live-action movies, I think, are perfect. Like, these are, like, double the length of, like, Hugh Jackman's claws.
Yeah.
But the claws should also be in like somewhat in tandem with the length of his forearm.
Okay, that's true.
Because when you see the X-rays of the bone claws, at least depending on, like, they start about halfway down and protrude out. The bones themselves go all the way to his elbow, but they shoot out, you know, pushing out, coming here, and they'll usually come out, you know, probably about here, you know, distance here, something like
about here.
That's like a good Wolverine claw length thing.
Okay,
but this is also like the same kind of thing. Do you like the short ears or long ears on Batman? So, lots of detail work, lots of shadowing, lots of veins.
Yeah, lots of veins.
Don't know anyone that has hands that look like this.
Yeah, that's very unique. I'm not sure what's going on there.
It's another Sam Keith thing, large hands. Juggernaut here is stylistically very similar to Sam Keith's most popular character. We'll get to him definitely. And like, you can't talk Sam Keith and not talk that character. Any last little things on
nope, I'm good.
Wolverine and Sam Keith aside? Just, you know, very bizarre anatomy. But that's something that we're going to notice a lot as we go on through. So here's two. This is a page from a series he did called Zero Girl. So let's start up top here and work our way down. Lots of background detail, lots of character detail. Even just in this top image, you really get a sense of kind of what the dynamic here is like. You do get a lot of emotion in a lot of his art.
Yeah, I see.
You know, scrolling down, and one of the things that Sam Keith is known for is kind of being like an armchair therapist, feminist type, where he very loosely said, you know, makes these statements and without being thoroughly like educated in them, like a pseudo intellectual type, where it's like, I read this in a book once. Here's a strong female character. She dresses very promiscuity because I read it in this feminist book once that they will do that for some reason. And but one thing you'll notice with Sam Keith, and we'll notice later on, is Sam Keith does draw very beautiful women. But you know, like with the example of this lady here, not drawn to the typical comic standards of what you would see a female presented as in a comic. You know, she's like actually very realistically
proportioned.
Proportion. This is clearly not someone who's a bodybuilder or in the fitness craze. She's got some, you know, gut here. She's got some chub. You know, she's not drawn to have a big butt and thighs, but 6-inch waist. She's drawn very realistic. You know, the kid here. And this is where some of the anatomy kind of starts falling apart. It's really small head, really long neck.
Yeah, just like raggedy clothes.
really skinny arms, but clearly you got a good amount of baby fat on you still.
Mm-hmm. Even and then his eyes. Or
his or
hers.
I think it's a her because this is a very female-centric comic.
I could see it either way.
She's so fucking bitchin'. I'm pretty sure that's what that's supposed to say. Fucking. Unless if it's she's so shit bitchin'.
Yeah.
It would just be bad grammar, Sam. Come on. A lot of his kid characters have these little beady eyes and no sclera or around at all. Just a black nothingness, like a dog's eyes.
Terrifying.
But anything you can really think of as far as the art itself goes, this line work, whatever. Because I think it's very good detail shadowing with a combination of more solid shading, but a lot of cross hatching and line work.
Good point.
The clothing is all textured very well.
I feel like in this image, you get both a contrast of somebody who can do realism very well. Obviously, you have the lady who is drawn with a much more realistic edge. And, of course, and then you have the much more caricaturized child. So here you have kind of an artist who can pull either or. And I think that's very powerful that he chose to draw them this way, because it's kind of like him saying, I could have made them cartoony or realistic.
You'll notice that blend in a lot of his work that we're gonna get to, but I'd like to say something more than what we saw with the Rob Liefeld stuff. Even with the simplified face, you get a lot of emotion. Like, without reading the bubbles, she's clearly in awe at this older woman. She has a very spunky attitude. She's a very confident. Has to feel like she knows what she's talking about.
You can hear the condescension in the posing and the yes. I can hear that yes.
So again, delivering on emotion through the art is something that Sam Keith, I feel, has always been very good at.
Very interesting.
So any last little things on this one?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Well, here's Venom and Wolverine.
Classic.
Let's take a look at this one. Well, look what dropped into my lap. Lunch. It sounds like people take care of at work. Lunch.
So before we begin, just a quick question for you. So quick digression, guys. I had a video game called Marvel Imperfects, and in its video gallery, you had Venom versus Wolverine. And I always thought it was interesting. And I always thought, did Venom and Wolverine have this history where they hated each other or something?
They're always fighting in media.
Why?
Even in
this one I never understood.
Even in Ultimate Spider-Man on PS2, in one of the Venom levels, you fight Wolverine, and you trash his motorcycle for no reason, and then you fight him in a bar.
Why?
I don't know what this Wolverine-Venom beef is. I don't know what started it.
I honestly want to know what started, did Venom knock over, Wolverine's bicycle one day? Or was it, Wolverine, did something to Venom one day?
Not even scratching Wolverine's bike is enough to get him to want to kill you.
This is true.
So let's
go to the art.
Let's look at the art. I think Venom looks very good. I think Wolverine looks better than he did facing Juggernaut.
Fair enough.
Venom's got a very weird chin.
Yeah.
Because then you boom. Like
that is part of his chin.
What is like Venom still has to take the general proportions of Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
I don't think Eddie Brock had a chin as fucked up as this.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I'm like, is that his chin?
No nose, as Venom is typically depicted without a nose, so that works.
The stylist.
Very, very simplified eyes, kind of a thing. And it's these Venom eyes are like very different from other artist depictions of Venom I've seen. Definitely different than like Todd McFarlane's Venom when he like created the character. Coloring and shadow work is very good. Clearly, he's utilizing a fair bit of negative space with the heavy blacks, heavy shadowing, and it's more traditionally heavy shadowed with a little bit of cross hatching. Moving into the hand, big hands, but appropriate for somebody the size of Venom. Now, actually, I just noticed this. You can see Wolverine's eyes looking up through the mask.
Yeah.
Hasn't he always been depicted with the wide eyes in this mask?
I think it depends. To be honest. But in this instance, I will say I almost didn't notice the eyes. And I don't know if that's a mark against it or for it.
I think it's because it's just blending in so much with the other brown.
Yeah.
Which is like, yes, the brown and yellow is like Wolverine's like notable classic look. But if you're gonna give him the brown, like if you're gonna make his eyes visible, they really should have done the blue and the blue, yellow, and black.
I will say again, the one thing that's getting to me about this whole image is, on theory, there are several things that are very appealing to it. It's just a weird pose.
It is.
It's just a bizarre pose.
There's also almost no real shape to Venom's body here either.
Yeah.
He's this large mass, but what's going on with his side going down here? Like it looks like he's like genie out of a bottle over here.
I feel like he pulled the old artist cheat, which is leave some of the body on the outside and leave that to the viewer's imagination.
Wolverine's got great expression on his face.
Very detailed.
And
very detailed, so he knows anatomy, obviously.
That's the thing too. Is Sam Keith is very detail orientated in his art. It's very like everything I've seen drawn by Sam Keith has a purpose. Everything is meticulously done to his standard, but it's just a little weird. Like this is a cool image, but it's just a little weird. Venom's tongue, I've never seen it this long.
This windy, and how is it still... Again, another thing that's bothering me is how the tongue is behind Wolverine's head, but Wolverine's like earpiece is behind Venom's chin, which just means that Venom must be so close to Wolverine
that he's resting his chin on the fucking
earpiece
ear of his mask.
And it's just like, if I was Wolverine right now, it would just be stranger danger. And obviously he looks ticked, but I would be much more concerned.
Get your mitts off me, you damn freak.
No, at that point it would be, get up! It wouldn't even wouldn't have time to say that. It would be
So, technically speaking, it's a good image. The little questions is the perspective. I mean, and clearly the ear is covered so you can see Venom's face.
Yeah.
We all know that. But if this is one page, and this is clearly one page out of a series of panels that was going on. Would it have been so bad to cover up part of his face? I think it would have been a little creepier to like obscure his face a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of try and maybe like break up some of the heavy shadowing so we can like define where his body is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Wolverine looks fine.
Yeah, Wolverine looks just about.
Technically speaking, Wolverine looks fine.
Yes.
All right. Any last minutes on this one?
I guess just like some of the dialogue is a little interesting. Like it goes lunch, and then there's the word joke.
Oh, the onomatopoeia.
And I mean, you almost don't need the dialogue, but on the other hand, it's just kind of weird.
If you want to see artists having fun with onomatopoeia, you gotta read some Judge Dredd. Especially some of the stuff they do in the Batman Judge Dredd crossovers. Specifically the last one, Die Laughing.
Oh.
There's this great shot where you see where like Joker inherits Dark Judge powers.
Okay.
And he has this like magical cacophonous laugh that'll like make people's heads explode.
Okay.
So we have the onomatopoeia of ha 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 while Judge Dredd is shooting the body that the Joker is in because he's not in his own body in this one. So he's shooting at the Joker and the words blam 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 are breaking through the ha ha ha's. And it all looks like street art.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
So it looks really cool and just great work with onomatopoeia in that. Let's move on to the next one. We have the first image here that we have from the Max, which is one of my absolute favorite comic book series. I love the Max. I fucking love the Max. It is so good. Even when it falls off the rails and gets really weird by like issue 20, it starts going way off the rails. But then you only got 15 issues left because it stops at issue 35. It got an an MTV animated series, and that show is like a perfect one-to-one adaptation of the first 13 issues. And it is a work of art. It is a work of art, that show. But
this is a work of art.
Speaking of work of art, we have, let's look at the art here. Let's start up here in this corner panel. There's this corner of the panel here. This is the character Julie Winters from the Max, the main female lead, and because like she is the main character of the Max, Julie is the main character. You would think it's the Max, but Sam Keith is smart and he knows that the Max will sell books. But Julie Winters is the main character, but then in the end she's not the main character, it's Sarah. And who the fuck is Sarah? You found out who Sarah is. Because Sam Keith just said fuck it at some point, so I want to do one of those god awful time skips and change everything. So, again, very heavy shadow, very very detail orientated work. She's clearly helping a homeless person here. So based on this corner image, what are your thoughts?
Okay, first quarter image. Again, you get like kind of a juxtaposition. The lady, what's her name?
Julie.
Julie is kind of anatomically correct. You have your kind of guy, and he's more of a caricature. He's kind of simplified. His proportions are a little more elongated. He's more of a cartoon. Yeah. So you kind of have, again, that whole realism versus cartoon aspect going on there. I think he kind of uses it to kind of say who the quote-unquote serious characters are, or to indicate, or at least who we should be paying attention to.
Except then they get a little cartoony looking themselves.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So now their style is kind of similar here. Yeah. There's actually a great dialogue in this book too, and the voice acting casts for the animated show is perfect. It's so good. But yeah, technically speaking, the proportions all look good. Of course, some artistic liberties because of his art style are taken. She's got more of a rounded face, thinner throat, well portioned. The hand's drawn a little weird here.
Yeah, the hand is a little odd. The outfit seems a little bit unique. Like, I wouldn't see somebody, I can't imagine even for the era that this was in, that somebody would dress like this.
So, okay.
More like what I imagine somebody in this era would dress like.
Okay, so then yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room and take a deep dive and look at Julie's crazy outfit. Again, Julie herself fits into that theme or that artistic depiction of women in Sam Keith's book. Julie Winters is clearly a beautiful woman, but she doesn't have a six-pack. She's got some chub, and depending on what inflections of a given scene they're trying to show off, maybe more, maybe less, depending on what they're doing narrative-wise. So her stomach fluctuates a little bit, but that's all whatever Sam Keith wanted to draw that day. I've seen people wear tops like this today. Frizzy. Now, I believe this is one of the... I believe this is in the original run, because they did a recoloring when IDW picked up the rights. Because again, the Max is Image. So Sam Keith owned everything. So IDW said, hey, we'd like to put out the Max, and Sam Keith is probably one of the most self-deprecating people you could ever meet. Very sad, but he's great at what he does. Everybody loves his work. But so basically, IDW comes along. Hey, we want to reprint the Max. Why? Why would you want to do that? Nobody read it when I wrote it 20 years ago. Why would you want to? Even though that the Max #2 pre-orders were fucking were 500 something thousand or more, pre-orders for the Max #2. But also part of that was speculators market. But so they said, well, we remember you said something like the colors didn't come out right, so maybe you can go back and you can fix those colors, and we'll put them all out. And then IDW puts out the books, and they're like, oh, this isn't selling well. They still reprinted the run up to 35 so I can put it all in trades and sell them as big books, which sold better than the single issues.
For sure.
But this pair of jeans.
Yeah, that's very odd.
Short cut fishnets, black panties, open jeans that are also assless, crotchless, and sideless chaps. There are no pockets, but with the full belt and the garter belt type straps. the torn things, but also comes out in bell bottoms.
Yeah, I will say, this man has a very creative sense of fashion.
But Julie also has a reason for why she dresses like this. It's hard to talk about her backstory without talking about her backstory, because her backstory is fucked up.
Let's say it's for character reasons.
It's for character reasons, and in some again, like, pro-feminism book he read in 1992 or 1993. Yes, 1995, when this came out, because the animated show came out in 97. So in 1995, when he started the Max Weber feminist book, he has said that a woman should own up to her own sexuality and present it strongly and proudly, and other kind of fucked up backward shit like, hey, if you dress like this, you're asking to be assaulted, and this and that. And that's in Julie's backstory. She was assaulted, and now she dresses like this because it's her way of owning her sexuality. Like this whole ass backwards thing that almost sounds like anti-feminism, feminism, but that's Sam Keith's writing. Is very armchair, very baseline, but again, the actual image here of Julie looks really, really good.
Yes.
You get the kind of aloof, kind of wavy hair, big hair. She's confident. She's sure of herself, but she's also not. You get the feeling through the expression on the face. Yeah, she's confident here in her domain, helping the like she knows what she's doing, but the blacked out eyes and shaded out eyes and hair covering her face, she's hiding herself.
Yes.
While presenting to everyone that she's a strong person who's owning up to whatever feminist ideal Sam Keith has.
Well, it has been, some couple decades since this idea. And I would say that the kind of direction has changed. If you've ever seen the cartoon Steven Universe.
I've seen some of it, but I've never really watched it.
It was made by, obviously it has several ideals, it has several characters, and they kind of take on several different forms and functions, and they all mean different things. Insert topic of the week here. But it always seems like the kind of discussion is, what character deserves to be shown? And it seems like it's sort of, what kind of character, it's very easy to have an Adonis be your main character. But what about a hunchback? What about...
Disney tried it didn't sell well.
Yeah, it didn't sell well. A fact I'm always salty about.
Hunchback of Notre Dame was great. Just little side note, it's fucking...
Or Beauty and the Beast. A lot of people...
Weird thing about Hunchback of Notre Dame. What's the priest guy's name? Frollo. He's weirdly become a sex symbol in recent years.
So I've heard. I don't know. I've never understood that.
Like, do like women find that attractive? I'm going to sneakily rub your shoulders and smell your hair and talk about the fire while I look at the naked lady dance.
Well, we could fill a whole book about the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You have the Hunchback, and then you have the classical hero guy, blonde hair, good and noble.
Who the dancer ends up with.
Yeah, who the dancer ends up with.
Granted, everyone, if I remember right, I think everybody dies at the end of the book.
Yeah, well, yeah, Disney had to Disney. You couldn't.
Disney had to Disney, yes.
And, well, that's true, and by that standard, even the Hunchback was kind of villainous in that version.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Disney really Disneyed when you think
but
about
then
it.
they did the sequel, so it was okay.
Yeah. Oh god, the sequels.
Sequels.
Oh no.
We're jumping down a rabbit hole. Let's take the blue pill and backtrack.
Yeah. Case in point, she's obviously very attractive, but she obviously seems to both use that attractiveness and seems to not want to be defined by it.
That's basically her character.
Mm-hmm. So she's obviously going through a lot, and she's probably a therapist or therapy adjacent.
She's what's in this series called a freelance social worker.
Mm.
I've never heard of a freelance social worker. I don't know what that is. It's like, hey, I'll help you with your social work, but we're working on my schedule. I'm free this weekend. And she's not employed. She's self-employed. She has a job and makes okay money. Apparently funded or financed by the state, whatever it is. She's a freelance social worker, so she's not destitute.
You know who could have really used her services?
Who?
I bet you know who I'm going to say.
I want to hear you say it because I want to know if it is who I'm thinking of. Because I'm
Arthur Fleck.
Yeah, yeah, he could have probably used that.
Especially freelance services, because if you'll remember, the state was pulling the funding.
You know,
Julie, so since she's freelance,
if you get to later on in the Max, there's a chance that Julie would have shacked up with Arthur.
Yeah, I can see that she and Arthur would have very interesting conversations.
But
also maybe Harley Quinn bait.
but yeah, everything on this page is very well drawn. Everything looks good. Great render, great color, great, shadowing, great shading, great, really strong anatomy.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think we're good.
yeah, let's move on to the next one. Here's something Sam Keith threw with Batman the Max. There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack.
Ooh.
Oh no.
Which, first off, I just want to say, this is the patented Sam Keith Bat logo.
Oh, okay.
It looks just as weird as everything else. Okay.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we're seeing the Max himself in this gallery.
Yeah, he kind of does look like a fusion between Juggernaut and Wolverine.
Well, the Max is a rabbit. There's a long story behind that. Basically, he is Julie's spirit animal.
Oh.
Basically, when Julie was a young kid, she found this rabbit in the street that got hit by a car. And she felt bad for it. So she took the rabbit and put it in a box. And put the box under her bed. And thought that as long as the rabbit was here, the rabbit would get better. So night after night, the rabbit kicking and scratching in pain and agony and suffering, Julie's mom finally came in, took the rabbit and fucking killed it. Put it out of its misery, which was the merciful thing to do. Because they didn't take it to the fucking vet. It was gonna die anyway, probably.
Yep.
So in that moment, Julie identified that as an act of violence. And she never got over it. So
as a kid.
the rabbit became her spirit animal. And then the first night where she would technically meet the Max, she hit him with a Buick. Fucking ran him over. Because she was driving late at night, it was raining, and or someone sees this homeless guy and who needed help, and she had a flashback to a homeless man who she tried to help when she was younger, who assaulted her. So she, without thinking, fucking runs his ass over. He ends up in an alleyway, and in her kind of funk, reminiscent of putting the rabbit in the box, took a lampshade that was in her back seat and put it over his head. Now that came from her outback, not Australia, or at least not the one that they tell you about in school. The outback is a magical dream world where you can enter and explore people's inner selves. And Julie's is this barren, chaotic wasteland where she is the jungle queen, where she created this scantily clad hero, this strong ruler
who she wants to be.
Yes. In this world, the jungle queen is the ruler, and the Max is her guardian. So the lampshade turns into his costume and spawns from that, and he becomes tied to Julie's outback and becomes her spirit animal.
So basically, for all my anime fans out there, she's a JoJo.
Technically, he is but later on, he straight up becomes a rabbit man by the end of the series. He is a straight up rabbit man.
Stando,
but
the Maxo.
That's where this crouch stance comes from. He's supposed to look very rabbit-like.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That actually puts a lot of things into context.
For the drawing of... So if you see other drawings of the Max, is very in tune with how that character was designed to look.
Interesting.
Like, the Max isn't meant to look like a normal guy.
I will say that all of that was very interesting to hear, but still looking at this dude, I would not have pictured that at all.
I know! It's so fucking bizarre.
All of that you mentioned, I said, wow. That is a deep and thoughtful story. And then I looked at this, and
he's also a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
He is also like one of these days we're gonna have to go through the animated show at the very least for the Max. But yeah. So and now let's go up to Batman here.
So you're the Batman connoisseur. I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I see Batmanisms here. And I can presume that this is a Batman.
He, first thing off the image, he looks very flat.
Oh, really?
And I know what you're thinking. It's just a drawing on a computer, of course. But no, he looks very like the Max. Like look at the difference between Batman and the Max here, where Batman feels very flat, but his cape feels 3D, and Max in front of the cape with it kind of bellowing over him. The Max feels very foreground. It feels very rendered. Batman, who's clearly the second main component of this image, feels like an afterthought, even though this was from conception part to promo the Max Batman crossover.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, Batman... Yeah, the Max really takes up a lot of the space. Batman has a very interesting pose, but even his cape kind of overshadows him.
But this is also one of the better images of Batman I've seen from Sam Keith, where I'm like, this is objectively good and not just Sam Keith weirdness. But again, this goes into do you like long ears or short ears on Batman? I if I have to say, okay, let's make everybody happy and just cut these in half, and they're medium length ears, which look fine. He has almost no differential between his jaw and his neck. It's just all part of his head. It's all just very one big line. There should I would at least put a little, kind of curve in here and have it kind of come out a little bit more, kind of like that.
It does look like
it's a very loose jawline.
It does look like the cowl is part of his cape.
In a lot of depictions of Batman, it's easier to just draw it looking like it's one piece. But even like the actual live action Michael Keaton cowl, which was all one piece that came down over his shoulders and over half of his chest, there was still a clearer differential between where his actual head and neck started and came down. What is up with Batman's abs?
Dude, the dude is shredded.
But look at this shape. What is all this?
It's
what is all that?
It's I don't know. It's like he decided to go really hard on the abs. It's like, but also in order to show that definition, it's not like core strength. It's like he's emaciated in a way.
Because
to be that
like the Rejects warrior woman, she had that weird indent at the top of her abs.
That's
and we
like
have that going on here with Batman.
You're seeing his rib cage.
Yes,
you're seeing his literal rib cage. Now look,
but everything else aside from just this mid piece is technically fairly decent anatomy. I don't really know what's going on. It looks like there's a broken bone here.
Yeah, the way he kind of contorts his arm there is
there should be one solid curve here, just kind of coming right down in there. But everything technically, again, at a glance, if you're flipping through a page, oh, here's a variant cover, that looks cool, next. This looks good.
I'm noticing a trend where I feel like these guys need to fully draw out their characters. So even I feel like for Batman, he had an idea of what would look cool, but he didn't fully draw out what it would look like. Like, where's his feet? Where's his placement? You know? Like, draw out the whole guy and then add.
That's how I do it. I draw the whole body first. So I know where everything's going to lay. And then I'll put the second character in. And then I'll add the clothes. I basically draw everybody like a fucking Barbie or Ken doll.
I will say that.
And then I add the clothes and other aesthetic pieces.
But then for the Max, I'm confused about his feet.
He's got very large feet, come on.
That's what I must assume.
He's always thumping. Always thumping.
Oh, okay, let's just go. I can't, because I can't even articulate what I want to say.
He's a rabbit man. Very large rabbit feet. Anything else on Batman and the Max?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna leave it at that for now.
Let's hop into the next one. Okay, here's another panel or page from the Max. This was the first time that the average comic reader would see a Sam Keith woman.
Very 30s.
Yeah, it really got this feeling, and again, we've been saying this through the whole thing. Sam Keith draws very beautiful women, but she's very realistic.
Yeah, she. I think he managed to also get like that 30s Art Deco style.
Yes.
For some reason.
Yeah. Well, this is in the first issue of the Max, within the first 5 to 6 pages. And the first 6 issues of the Max are probably the most literal of Sam Keith's art. Where it's almost like he's there, it's like, this needs to be really, really good. And then he started falling into his looser style, which I think is just him being looser. But this is like as literal as his art gets here. So, what happened? I'm back. Baby.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need to talk about that bottom panel.
So down in the alleyway, you get a great feel for setting. Got the big hulking front guy. You got the little squirmy guy. He's kind of a skinny one's Tigo. The big one's Fridge. It's actually Sam Keith. Not Sam Keith. It's actually the Max narrating. Do you know where the Max is in this page?
Nowhere.
He lives in that box in the back of the alley. He's in that box right
now. He's in the panel.
They beat people up, take their money, kill them sometimes. The cab driver gets a third. Yeah. Idiot doesn't even know his own stupid business.
You know it's from New. You know it's in New York. You know it's in New York.
I'm gonna miss the curtain if he doesn't know the city. I don't see how he can get a license. And he got Fridge creeping up in the background there. Yep. And here's the page you wanted to talk about.
Okay, so line of... Gosh darn it. There's a lot going on here. So I think he's grabbing her by the hair.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Here.
Ow.
Big stumpy arm.
And he's doing something with the other one.
He's
taking the purse.
He's grabbing her by the head.
Oh, okay.
If you go based on the Max's narration here, one woman, they beat her head so hard against the sidewalk they cracked the concrete. She's talking about someone else. Another one ran 3 blocks on a broken foot. Sometimes whatever they're talking. So they're gonna do some unsavory things there.
Yeah. The implication is pretty good.
He's got her by the hair, got her by the face, and forcing her down. The way she's bent, it looks like her spine is broken.
Yeah, it looks like they snapped her spine.
She's okay until the actual main villain finds her at the end of the scene. But that's after the Max gets arrested. So,
yeah, that is a lot.
But the bottom half, drawn well, rendered well. I would have beefed up just the back of the knee a little bit more if it was me drawing this.
I do. The action is just so bizarre to me. I can't get around that. It's just such a weird pose to take. I guess because if he must be grabbing her whole head.
I mean, he's got his big hands. He clearly his hands large enough to do that.
Yeah, and it's just, and she's obviously being swung backwards, and she's reacting. She's grabbing.
She's trying to fight back.
Yeah. She's like, something just grabbed my head. So obviously, you got Slinky Dude there.
Tigo,
Yeah. I would say that
big guy. Excellent use of shading. Shadow work, especially here we get the definition. He's clearly making he's clearly smiling. He's clearly happy to be doing what he's doing. He's got the happy brows, but he's clearly an older guy, so he's got some wrinkles there. We've got the cross hatching, and some of this cross hatching is filling in for the hair on his arm. We see some strands actually coming out here. That's the detail work of Sam Keith. No one else would draw little strands of rough hair coming off of a thug's forearm.
It's just that last image is just very odd. It's just not at all what I would have.
It's if we were drawing that, we would try to make it look a little more literal. If I were to change anything up, I would kind of have still like have just the pose be slightly different. Him grabbing the hair, grabbing the head, kind of maybe having her almost in a position where she would be getting dragged back almost instead of getting pulled backwards.
But by following the action lines, we actually can't follow the figure.
Yeah, and again, I just can't get over this broken fucking spine.
So maybe, like you said, if this was animated,
when they did the animation, I don't think they really detailed this scene.
Ah, dang it. Oh.
It's been a while since I watched it, but we gotta watch it. Any last things about this page?
Just kind of like the first parts are like, okay, this is like your normal fare, person's about to be jumped. And then the last one is just such a bizarre way to tackle it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It definitely looks weird. But, okay, well, let's hop on to the next one. We actually had, I was just on the Max. I was reading some of the Max when I set this up. The page, the following page from the Max.
Is this literally the next page, or?
I think so.
Okay.
No, this is a couple pages later.
Okay.
Because it follows a coin that fell out of the woman's purse that rolled into the Max's box. And Tigo went to go get it. And the Max fucking drags him into the box and kills the guy. Again, like everything this is obviously looser. This was a rush drawing. But immediately made up for by the next one. And then the next one, and then the next one. Till we get to... again, here's the way that the Max is weirdly drawn, but Fridge is drawn similar, too.
Yeah.
But you definitely see what became the basis of that Wolverine Juggernaut picture, bringing that full circle back to... back to picture one.
Yup, so... I see... Again, it feels like he went after what looked cool.
Well,
which, again, is bizarre because I think this guy has a fairly good understanding of anatomy.
He does. But
he chooses this.
He's more comfortable with this. And one of the things is if he feels like it looks like shit, it's not going to hurt when somebody else says it looks like shit. Even though everybody fucking loved this. Everybody loved it.
Don't get me wrong, it got my attention.
But again, that's just was status quo for the 90s. What's cool? What's the first image that's going to make you buy this? If I saw just this with no context, I'd want to see what's going on.
Yeah. And I mean, look, this one page is very cool because I like how his little horn is 3D. You see that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that horn is like a little 3D. So that's kind of neat.
Well, that's funny. That's his middle finger too.
It's probably coming from his middle finger.
That's the claw is his middle finger. See one?
Oh, the claw is his middle finger.
The claw is as if it's Sam Keith flipping everybody off.
So it's not
by the boats anymore.
So it's not coming out. It is his middle finger.
It is. It's this big fuck you. He's gonna stab you with a big fuck you.
That's good. I like that. Okay, I like this design now. Okay, once you explain it, it becomes more amazing. But it is so not my first thought when I see this for the first time.
But this whole page is very well done.
I love how like you see the actual like paper skittering away from him.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like all the like detail works in the surroundings of them are great.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude has a real good sense for detail.
And again, that's the thing. Sam Keith is a phenomenal artist, but then he'll get a little weird. Oh, where are you done?
No, we're good.
Okay. Well, let's hop into the next one then. This is also from the Max.
The Max?
A lot of his best work and strangest work is from the Max.
This is from the same thing?
Yes, this is the corrupted Jungle Queen. Other fucked up shit happens in the book, and they meet this fucked up version of the Jungle Queen, and it's funny because when they meet this version of the Jungle Queen in the comic, the Max literally says, "Why does this look like a bad paperback cover?" And it's like, why are you shitting on your own work, Sam? Because this is really good. This is very expressionistic. It's very good. It's got a very oil painting feel.
Yes,
you know? like oil. But it's very good.
You know what it reminds me of?
It's different.
Two things. Number one, it kind of reminds me of what I've seen people talk about DC's The Endless.
Oh yeah,
like the cosmic abstracts. So you get to like the Dreamer.
Sam Keith did the art for the first 8 issues of Sandman.
Oh, that could explain it.
I think I have some Sandman in here too.
That could explain it. So yeah, right on the money. But the second thing is, she looks like Baba Yaga, a witch.
Yes.
Just
that's kind of what she was meant to turn into in this corrupted version.
Just, this is a kind of like, this is the kind of witch that you like hear. This is what you imagine a witch would look like.
You know,
or this is what you
black,
hope.
Straggled hair, feeding up in and around. You got the trees bellowing in the background.
I almost thought the trees looked like, to me they kind of look like, what's the word? Millipedes or salamanders.
Centipedes.
Centipedes.
Whatever,
yeah, like some kind of big bug.
And again, even at that, at this point too, he could have drawn the most idealized looking
but he made
woman for the corrupted version of Julie Winters. It's like, hey, look, this is everything you're not. But no, it's just her darker. Like again, she looks like a real person.
Yeah, and
very sullen, just down face. You get a lot of emotion just from this, but that's also part of how expressionistic the piece as a whole is.
Yeah, you get the sense that there's nothing but bad vibes coming from this character.
Yeah. The only thing I can't tell is where are her arms. I just don't know where her arms are.
That's a good point.
Unless if they are shadowed in back of her, but there's nothing in the book to determine that, because one panel you see him, one panel you don't, then you don't see her in the third.
I will say that sometimes, as an artist, like, it seems like Sam Keith seems to follow more of, I'm trying to get something that's in my head on the paper, rather than thinking about it logically.
Unless if this is a hand here, I'm noticing this here. This looks like a hand here, kind of feeding down, and it'd be kind of coming right up into the shoulder here. Actually, this kind of semi-lines up. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. But with an abstract piece like this, you're kind of expected to read into it.
Yeah, now that you mention, it's a little hard to say.
But it's just such a beautiful, haunting image.
Yeah, I will say it just haunt. I don't want to say terrifying. It's just,
and this is Sam Keith. This is the style he's most comfortable in drawing.
I can
this
see
kind of looser, abstract kind of thing. Like this is Sam Keith.
I dig it.
And like it's very good. So, like this show's not meant to shit on artists or talk badly. Like yes, we'll make jokes or something, but we want to bring more notice to these artists and to these people. And it's not just going to be comic book artists. It's going to be artists that we find on Instagram or Twitter, like other artists in general that we just want to bring notice to or talk about.
I will say, by doing this show, I feel like maybe I pay more attention to when I start my own art, you know?
You know, I definitely study a lot of artists when crafting any image I draw. Anything else you want to add?
Phenomenal work.
What's that? Shadowing, shading, backgrounds, color. It looks great. Alright, let's see the next one.
Come on.
Okay. Here's a cover for a Batman series. Not one that Sam Keith wrote for, but he definitely did. He did a lot of cover work for Marvel and DC. Like, I think all the Nightfall covers, he did the covers for it too. And same thing with this Batman Secrets.
Ooh.
Again, which is, from what I've seen, in my opinion, the best depiction of Batman I've seen from Sam Keith.
It's good. I don't really got much to say.
You know, it's really good. Again, I wish that the ears were a little bit shorter, but that's a personal preference. I like Batman with the shorter ears.
I think I'm on the long ears camp. I just like that kind of vampire-y look.
And again, we see the patented the bat symbol.
Yeah.
The skinny bat, but he included the yellow oval.
Yeah.
He partly adheres to the kind of aesthetic. For some reason, Batman had these hooks, these horns on his shoulders, of his cape for a while. This kind of comes out to a point almost similar to the Keaton cowl. I mean, it's a little harder to tell, but the facial expression is really good.
He's scowling.
There's a lot of mood in the cowl itself. This is clearly meant to be a sculpted cowl, like you would see in a movie. The abs don't look emaciated. He's got the Arkham build. He's a big fucking dude.
Yes,
he's a big dude. Joker getting his shit stomped in.
Terrifying.
Even just a little detail, like there's some light reflecting off of his belt.
Yes, this is a Batman you wouldn't want to meet at night.
This is the Batman that's gonna find you buying an ounce of weed at 2 a.m. in Gotham City, and he's just gonna cave your teeth in and leave you there. But excellent work. You know, use of shadows and shading. And
may I mention one detail?
Yeah.
Zoom in on his face a little. You see that like curvature around his jaw, like right a little more to the right.
Here?
No, right there, right there. That curve, that's haunting. Because that right there indicates that his face just sunk in. So he's just like. He's literally just a skull.
That might be a bit of an anatomy thing then.
Oh yeah, but yeah, this would be like something you would see. What's his name? Scarecrow.
Yeah.
After Scarecrow dosed you and you saw Batman, he would look like this.
I definitely gotta say I didn't notice that because everything else is so good.
Oh yeah.
Everything else is so good in this one.
And of course, we gotta acknowledge the bats and the bright moon. Ooh, that light.
Technically, if the moon was that bright, if there was no light coming from about here, we really shouldn't see anything lit up here. But there's clearly some kind of street light. Otherwise, what would be reflecting off of his belt? But just one of the coolest Batman images that I've seen in a long time.
Agreed.
Anything else you got on this one?
I guess not. Now let's
I'll move into the next one. From a Max comic, this was before his first fight with the main villain.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this guy, again, not an important character, kind of a character. He's got this really fucked up head.
Yeah, like a bowling ball or weird.
It kind of makes me think of, what the hell's the name of that one Jedi Master?
Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Yes, the guy with the really weird head.
Yeah.
Feel bad for the actor. He probably had to sit there for like 3 or 4 hours
Just
to put that head on him. Great use here of shadowing and shading here. I love Max has clearly been through some shit. His suit's all torn up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this one's great here because they give him that really stereotype. I got the square jaw. I'm a big guy. I'm a superhero. These are the is.
Yeah, not. Are they just like Pac-Man? They look like just Pac-Man or the Langoliers.
Think the Langoliers with the stick figure body.
Oh.
But big bubbly feet. In the Outback, they're white, but they're still vicious little things. When they get pulled into the real world, they turn into this black, mutated version of themselves that are more vicious and bloodthirsty and hungry. But in the real world, they'll appear to normal people whatever you dress them up as. But to people who are awakened to the Outback, can see them for what they really are. So the Max sees them as the Izzes, but everybody else sees them as these 90-year-old ladies because they're dressed like old women. So Captain Fuckhead here sees 4 elderly old ladies attacking a giant man in a purple suit.
What a night, man.
So here he's like fighting them off. You know? It was the little old ladies. They must have jumped out of the station wagon from before. I was starting to think it was getting pretty hazardous around here. You think? Because like this, this is what he's seeing. Is these old ladies jumping and biting on the Max.
Yep.
But now we're getting into that kind of looser style. Now the gloves aren't as detailed as they were before. There's not as much texture work on the gloves. But the suit is textured like wonderfully. But everything else is very simplified.
The line of action, like he's clearly like swinging around.
He's trying to get him off him.
Yeah.
But again, like I think everything here is like rendered very well. Everything looks good. You know, again, this is still when his Max work was very literal. You know, again, he's got big hands, huge fucking body. Because the Max, until he becomes a rabbit man, is a normal guy under that suit. He's just a really big fucking guy who's like looks like the Juggernaut for no reason.
I will say the fact that like you see like just normal human, like you just see like normal flesh, kind of makes him like just kind of makes it like more horrifying in a way, or just sad. Well, like the fact that like you see like his arm and it's just like a normal person's and it's not like a costume. I think it humanizes him a little bit.
Well, definitely, but you also learn about the Max throughout the book, and he's just a normal guy. He's this homeless guy. He doesn't know who he is. He's got no memory. He's a fucking psychopath. You know, and the only thing he knows is he needs to protect Julie Winters, and thinks that if she ever decides to leave, he thinks he's going to cease to exist because he's tied to her Outback, and that's all he knows. So they actually share a very deep connection with each other. And I applaud Sam Keith for not going the route of, and they have this romance, and it's like, no, they're just platonic friends.
Yeah, like,
and it just stays that they just care for each other, nothing more, nothing less.
yeah, and of course you could have had the whole superhero scenario. It doesn't seem like it went that direction.
Not at all.
It didn't even seem like that was like a thought.
Again, Sam Keith is a businessman. The Max sells books. But he's writing about Julie Winters, and of course, like I said earlier, and then, Julie's not even the main character in the end of the story. Well, I'm ready to move on. What about you?
Just the paneling is a little odd. Like, the middle panel kind of takes away a little bit from the action, I feel.
The middle panel here?
Yeah, that middle panel, even though the guy's narrating, because you had such, like, dynamic first and ending ones, the middle one just kind of goes, what?
Well, because now you're kind of seeing it from the layman's point of view.
Yeah,
You just have this giant purple guy flailing with grannies on him.
Yeah. I guess that's an interesting transition. Like, that ending one, again, very cool.
I still wish he detailed the hands more. It just feels all skipped out. But
anyway.
Still good.
Oof.
Okay, so if I remember right, is he was doing a rendition of the Shadow,
Spooky.
who is one of the characters who inspired Batman. The Shadow was a radio play in the 20s about a kind of private investigator who wore this hat and black coat and a red scarf around his face. Later got adapted into a really bad live action movie in the 90s starring Alec Baldwin as the Shadow, but it could be an underrated movie. I haven't seen it yet. But they also made some 1940s movie serials on it, and I do have those on VHS.
Oh, alright.
Just again, this just looks good.
Yes.
And again, just Sam Keith is a great artist. He really is. Just very good use of the black and whites. Very good use of negative space.
I will say that here, unlike the Max and the Batman companion piece, I feel like he did something similar here, but whereas the Max kind of overpowered it, this one feels like even though the lady's in the foreground, she isn't overpowering his presence.
Yes, this is very balanced, and everything feels very well rendered. I feel like his gun, and there's probably a second one hidden. Like that's a little flat. This arm's a little flat, but they're clearly striking like a cover pose or an action pose. He's staring off at some guy going over here, and she's looking at her big score. So, but.
Use of shadow. It's very surreal.
It has a very, and again, in relation to the character, I'm assuming this is meant to be a very strong use of a film noir vibe.
Ooh, love film noir.
Come here, hey, I'm going to shoot you in the face. I want to get this dame, some money that she's looking for because you killed her man.
Yeah, you get the
thing.
The gun?
She's a dame to kill for.
Yes.
Which is the name of Which is the name of Frank Miller's Sin City book. The smoke coming from the gun. He clearly just shot. At least I think that's smoke.
I'm not quite sure what that is exactly. There are like some shapes in the darkness. I'm like, but
I do like that clearly whatever the light source is coming from, it's one area and it's got to be around here just illuminating this. Everything else is negative space. Got big bellowing trench coat
Love more trench coats.
I feel like maybe the guy might be rendered or might be drawn like a little too big. Like, his anatomy is good, but his proportions are large.
Yeah, his proportions seem... I can't quite get a handle of. Like, if that's his head, and that's his arm, and that's his shoulder, then he must have either a really long arm, which kind of gives him like this really shaggy looking appearance, you know? Where he's just like... It has just this really big trench coat that's way too big for him. So he's just like...
But he just feels like a very large person.
Yes.
Like he feels like someone that would have the proportions of a guy who's like 7 feet tall, or like larger than 7 feet tall. Which, going based off that logic, she's got to be like 6'6".
Yeah. So it's like, these are tall people.
But focusing her and on her, and she's clearly the main focus of this image, and he's kind of her secondary and backup. Just looking at the image here, a lot of confidence on the face, some great shading and shadow work. It's all cross hatching. Hair is filled out with solid colors.
Her eyes are soulless,
but with little white specks of life. She's got some kind of sleeveless turtleneck thing, dress. Again, this is just a very detailed and textured clothing. You see all the fabric lines and everything.
Yes, the fabric
as she's walking. Proper forced perspective of her walk. Her hands further in the back. That's more shadowed. This one's clearly forward. She's walking. Clearly you can see her walking pattern is the opposite hand is as forward as the opposite side leg.
Artists, take notes. This is how you hide your hands. Hide them into the shadows.
Cause yeah, he's got the hands hidden. I guess he didn't want to
draw the hands.
Draw giant hands.
Artists don't like drawing hands.
But that's not.
We will find every excuse not to.
That's not as bad as how many times Rob Liefeld finds a way to hide drawing feet or avoid drawing feet. But no, this is just a cool image. It's really good, and again, this is very much a style that Sam Keith is very comfortable in drawing.
And again, it kind of takes that. She has that again, kind of. The lady kind of has the kind of powerful look going on, but she does look with the Baba Yaga. Remember the Baba Yaga, the witch? There are some of that kind of like tones to her. Like she kind of looks a little spooky, but not quite evil.
It's very evocative to me of a witch from this movie. I believe it's called Black Sunday. And if I remember right, the lead actress I think was Barbara Steele, who was kind of a sex symbol in the 60s and 70s era of horror.
Yeah,
but she played the witch, and this is to me very evocative of that character. Just to me personally. I'm gonna have the actual details of that movie and so on listed as we're talking about that. I'm too lazy to get up and get the DVD in my room. But this is just cool. It's a very good image, and she feels more the embodiment of what I think he meant for Julie Winters to be. She's clearly a beautiful woman who's got a shapely body, who's in tight clothes, but that you get the feeling like she's really centered. She knows she's in control.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Yeah, it feels like she doesn't have anything to prove.
Well,
whereas Julie might have felt like she needed to prove something.
Well, I feel like off the bat, on first glance, her presence would bring out more respect from you immediately than looking at Julie if you ran into them both in the street.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so ready to?
We got another one?
No, I believe that was it. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Let me just double check. Yeah, no, this was it.
All right.
Just ended on a very strong one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now the fun part of picking which one we want to recreate in our own style.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're gonna do is we're just going to go through the images quick one more time so we can decide what image we would like to draw in our own style once this decides to pop up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like,
Look, fellas, my laptop's failing. It's many years old now. It's doing the best we could. Okay, I think we're going, maybe. So I want to draw Sam Keith looking at a comic.
That's what you... That's fair.
You know, those are the two that I'm kind of thinking about. So I will decide that, and you will see which one I decide based on what's showing up on the screen right about now.
Yes.
So you got kind of an idea of what you want to do?
Hard to say. Let me think. I guess the Batman and the Spawn one would probably be... Well, that has a lot of the capes, and the cape would just be... I'm trying to see which one I think I could actually approach, because unlike with Rob, where it would just be a simple anatomy fixture, certain things about this are either so bizarre, I would not know how to even attempt it, or it would just be fine.
It might work better because you have a more cartoony style than I do. So you might be able to capture the caricature bit a lot better than I can. But I love Sam's abstract work, but I equally love his literal work. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I will see you next time.
See you next time,
guys. Thank you for watching through this whole thing. This is going to be another long watch. I tried to keep things tame. Next time we'll have a timer.
Yes.
Thank you for watching. Tune in next time.